Hello and welcome to your July 9th daily briefing. Today we have even more confirmation from President Trump, who has some very positive comments about the next stimulus check, and we take a look at some of the other stimulus ideas that we may see in the next coming package. I'd also like to make a small announcement before we get into it. This channel officially has merch. Check out my shirt. My goal was to start with a shirt that I would actually wear that's also related to the channel. So I came up with this simple design, kind of as a nod to my video sign off that I see people commenting about all the time in the comments below. Anyways, this turned out better than I expected, so I'm glad I went with like some high quality material and just a simple design. Comes in a ton of colors, both for men's and women's shirts as well as hoodies. Check out the link in the description if you're interested, and that's about it. All right, let's get into the news. President Trump was interviewed again recently and has stated yet again that he is all for more direct stimulus payments, as well as a few other comments that help us to kind of build a more clear picture of what to expect in the next stimulus package. So let's break down this interview. First, President Trump was asked plainly, "Can Americans expect more stimulus checks from you?" To which he responded, "The answer is yes, we're working on it with Congress." This in itself is about as clear as one can be answering that question. I just don't see him being this sure about a next check happening unless he actually believes the odds are in the favor, and that makes me really happy. Despite this, I'm always cautious, and I personally never consider something 100% going to happen until it's actually happened. So, for the past couple of months, I've put the odds of a second stimulus check at around 65% or so. And I've said this on several videos. And because of this, I'm actually going to bump up that estimate to about 75 to 80% chance that we see a second stimulus check. And when that will happen is still a little bit up in the air, but it seems like there's going to be some sort of vote on that mid-July to late July. The reason I don't put it at quite 100% is because other key figures don't seem to be as sure about it as Trump is. Just last week, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said, "What I can tell you without fear of contradiction is the focus on the next stimulus package, that is, will be kids, jobs, and health care." This quote implies that he is near certain that there will be support for kids, jobs, and health care. However, is not quite as certain about a direct payment. Otherwise, I believe that he would have mentioned that as well. He would have said kids, jobs, and health care, and a direct payment to the people. Especially when mentioning a direct payment is such a crowd pleaser, and people would have loved to hear him say, yes, this is going to be in the next package. He's really careful about mentioning it in a really certain context. This is not to say that McConnell is against a payment, because just a couple days ago, McConnell was asked if individuals would receive stimulus checks again in the next package like they did in the March package, to which he responded they could be, following with, "I think people that have been hit the hardest are people who make about $40,000 a year or less," suggesting the next check may be more targeted than the first one. To me, all this evidence together leads me to believe that McConnell thinks that there's a decent chance for more stimulus, but he doesn't want to promise something that isn't totally certain as of right now, which I think is probably the smart way to do it. I personally wouldn't promise anything that I'm not certain about if I was a legislator. Back to the interview with President Trump. He was asked again the amount that Americans can expect in the next check, to which he couldn't give an exact figure, which I can't blame him. He doesn't want to make too many promises as to the fine details of the next check. However, he did say he wants a larger payment than what other people want to do. But it will still be significant numbers and great for the people of our country, which I think at this point, as I've said many times before, the best stimulus check right now is the one that's in people's bank accounts and able to spend. I think people are going to be totally satisfied if it's $1,200 and will be obviously more satisfied if it's more, $1,500, $2,000. But I think most people are on my side thinking that the best payment is the one that they receive. President Trump did not say anything about narrowing down payments like McConnell did to people who earn less than $40,000 a year in this interview. And I wanted to comment on this for a minute, Many people have been upset with the idea of giving checks to people who only earn less than $40,000 in 2019 or 2018, whichever year their income is being based off of, because there's many people who earn more than $40,000 in 2019, however, have since lost their job or had an income decrease, meaning they're now under $40,000 and wouldn't be eligible even though they're earning less. I would like to point out first that nothing has been passed yet. We all know things are changing on pretty much a daily basis, so I would recommend to try and not let any daily news on this topic upset you, because everything is still up for change. I'm updating my audience with everything that I can possibly find, both positive and negative. Yes, I'd rather the positive, but I really don't want to bum anyone out with negative news, especially when things are constantly changing. So I hope that you don't let that ruin your day. And then second, legislators know that this is an issue. On one of the previous stimulus check proposals, it included provisions where people could submit 2 months of income verification if they earned more than the threshold for a stimulus payment in 2019, but then had an income decline in 2020. This way, if someone had a good job in 2019 and lost it or lost income, they wouldn't be left out on the next stimulus check. So it is an idea that has floated around before that would still encapsulate these people. This is probably the most fair way to do it if they were to narrow down a stimulus check. However, I can't imagine the systems and processes needed to verify millions of people's 2-month pay stubs to get them a check. What I believe we would likely see if they said the limit is $40,000 a year for the next stimulus, and if your income dropped, you can still receive the payment, but you need to verify it. You probably wouldn't get the check, get the $1,200 or whatever the stimulus amount is, until you do your 2020 tax return. Why? Because this would mean the IRS doesn't need to do any more processing to verify income other than just a regular old tax return, which they have to do for everyone anyways. And they would be able to verify that you actually made less than $40,000 for the entire year, since right now we are just over halfway through the year. So, you could have made $10,000 in the first half of the year and you're going to make $40,000 in the second half because you got a good job or something like that. There's a lot of things that can happen. So that's probably the only way they could realistically do that. It still is receiving the money, but it might not be at the same time as everyone else. Moving back to President Trump's interview, the president says another part of the next relief bill, which is not up for negotiation, is a payroll tax cut. This would make paychecks larger, kind of acting as a stimulus. However, it would also have a secondary effect of decreasing funding for programs like Social Security and Medicare. Trump says if the next bill does not include what we need for the economy and for jobs, referring to a payroll tax cut, he would absolutely veto the bill. So he seems really serious about getting a payroll tax cut on the next bill. I know in the past we have heard a lot about him talking about a payroll tax cut, but then we won't hear anything about it for a month and then he'll mention it again. But it seems now that he's pretty serious about getting a payroll tax cut. Here's how a payroll tax cut works stimulus-wise. When employers pay their employees, both parties pay taxes. We all know that. This payroll stimulus would eliminate payroll-related taxes through a specified period. Let's say December 31st, 2020, just to make things simple. If implemented, the total cost is estimated to be around $90 billion a month to do this tax cut. Payroll for employees includes 6.2% of your income up to $132,000 a year for Social Security, 1.45% of your income for Medicare, and on top of this, married couples and those who make over $250,000 as joint filers and $200,000 as single filers pay an additional 0.9%. And then employer payroll taxes also separately include an additional 6.2% for Social Security and 1.45% for Medicare. With this proposed idea, employers and employees would each retain about $75 for every $1,000 either paid out or earned. This means the average worker would get a stimulus of around $280 a month, and employers would save that same $280 a month per employee for the average worker. This would equate to $1,680 in the pockets of each average worker in the United States by the end of the year. However, yeah, that's not as exciting as one big check because this is broken up just a little bit over each paycheck. Self-employed individuals would also be included in this, and these would actually be the biggest beneficiaries of this proposed idea. This is because self-employed individuals do not have an employer to pick up half of their FICA tab. Therefore, their self-employment tax rate is 15.3% for Social Security and Medicare taxes. This means that with average wages, the average self-employed individual would be looking at a $560 per month stimulus, totaling about $3,360 by the end of the year. Now, many are against this program because it does decrease funding to those programs like Medicare and Social Security. However, this is another case of us simply not having all the details yet. If legislators are for the stimulus because it's an incentive to work, they could do this payroll tax cut and then give Medicare and Social Security a payment proportional to the loss in funding they receive by not collecting payroll taxes. This would ensure those programs aren't defunded, and hopefully that's how they would do it if they implement this program. So that's all I have for today's daily briefing. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the like button and consider subscribing. We're almost to 90,000 subscribers. Thanks to you who are already subscribed, and thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a profitable day.